Hey guys, tonight we slip into the steamy, marble-clad world of ancient Roman baths, where the air hums with chatter and the floors glow warm beneath your feet. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a grand bathhouse, the Baths of Caracalla, its towering columns catching the golden afternoon light. Steam curls from the water, and the scent of olive oil and sweat lingers. Romans didn't just bathe, they turned it into an art form, a daily ritual that glued their society together. But keeping those massive pools toasty, that's a feat of engineering that'll make your modern thermostat blush. Fair warning, if you tried living like a Roman, skipping a bath might get you exiled to the slums. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and local time. I'm curious where you're drifting off from tonight. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step into Rome, 200 CE, where baths aren't just about getting clean. They're the heart of the city's pulse. Imagine the streets buzzing with toga-clad locals, all heading to the Thermae, the public bathhouses that could host thousands daily. The Baths of Trajan, sprawling over 10 hectares, welcomed everyone from senators to shopkeepers. Historical records show Romans spent hours here, soaking, gossiping, and sealing business deals. It's like a modern gym, spa, and coffee shop rolled into one, but with better architecture. You push through the crowd, your sandals slapping against warm stone, and feel the heat rising from the floor. How did they manage that without electricity? Spoiler, it's not magic, but it's close. The Romans were obsessed with bathing because it was more than hygiene. It was status. Miss a bath, and you're basically advertising you're a barbarian. A quirky tidbit. Some Romans slathered on crocodile dung ointments as skincare. Yes, you heard that right. Crocodile poop was a luxury product. Historians still argue whether this was widespread or just a rich person's fad. But either way, you're glad your soap is less exotic. You pause at the entrance, where a slave hands you a strigil, a curved metal tool for scraping off sweat and grime. It's a bit like peeling an orange, but the fruit is you. The bathhouse looms ahead, its walls painted with nymphs and gods, promising warmth and relaxation. You're about to learn the secret behind that cozy glow. But first, you notice the hum of voices. Everyone's here, from poets to pickpockets. As you weave through the crowd, you spot a mosaic of a dolphin, its tiles glinting in the torchlight. It's a reminder. Romans loved their baths so much, they built over 900 public ones across the empire. That's more Starbucks than you'll find in New York. The air's thick with steam, and you're already sweating. A guy next to you jokes about the emperor's new bathhouse, saying it's so big you need a map. You chuckle, but you're distracted by the floor's warmth. It's not just warm, it's perfectly toasty, like a heated blanket. You're dying to know how they pulled this off in an age of chariots and candles. You step toward the caldarium, the hottest room where the real magic happens. The heat wraps around you like a hug, and you're ready to uncover the trick that kept Rome's baths so inviting. You're deep in the caldarium now, the hottest room of the Roman bathhouse, where steam swirls like a lazy ghost and the walls sweat as much as you do. The floor's heat seeps through your sandals, a steady warmth that feels almost alive. This isn't some happy accident. Welcome to the hypocaust, the ancient Roman heating system that's about to blow your mind. You crouch down, peering at the floor, imagining what's beneath. Spoiler, it's not just dirt and good vibes. The Romans cracked the code on underfloor heating centuries before your fancy heated bathroom tiles were a thing. Picture this. Beneath the polished marble floor, a network of small brick pillars, called pili, holds up the entire surface, creating a hollow space. Hot air from a nearby furnace flows through this gap, warming the floor and walls like a giant radiator. Historical accounts, like those from Seneca, describe how the hypocaust turned rooms into toasty havens, even in chilly British outposts. You run your hand along the wall, feeling the gentle heat. It's not just the floor. Some walls have clay pipes, called tubuli, channeling that same hot air upward, making the whole room a cocoon of warmth. You're impressed, but also a bit jealous. Your apartment's heater can't compete. Here's a quirky bit. Some hypocausts were so efficient, they overheated. Pliny the Younger griped about his villa's floors getting too hot to walk on. Talk about a first world Roman problem. You smirk, imagining him hopping barefoot like you did on that one scalding beach vacation. Historians still argue whether hypocausts were a universal standard or a luxury for the elite. Smaller baths might have skipped them, relying on braziers, but the big public thermae, they were hypocaust central. You stand, stretching, and notice the slaves stoking the furnace outside. Their sweat keeps your feet cozy, a grim reminder of Rome's reliance on labor. The genius of the hypocaust lies in its simplicity. Fire in the furnace heats air. Air flows under the floor, and voila, your toes are toasty. But it's not all rosy. You catch a whiff of smoke, a faint reminder that these systems weren't exactly eco-friendly. The furnaces burned wood, lots of it, and the air quality in the furnace rooms. Let's just say You wouldn't want to be the guy shoveling. You glance at a nearby mosaic of a sea monster, its eyes glinting in the steam. It's a nice distraction, but you're hooked on the tech now. How did they control the heat? You imagine some Roman engineer tweaking vents like a modern HVAC guy, probably muttering about deadlines. As you move toward the tepidarium, the warm middle room, you feel the temperature ease, but the floor's still pleasantly heated. The hypocost's reach is everywhere, a silent workhorse. You pass a guy scraping his skin with a strigil, looking way too serious about it, and you stifle a laugh. Did he use that crocodile dung cream you heard about last section? Probably not, but you're not asking. The bathhouse hums with life, and the hypocost's warmth is the heartbeat. You're ready to learn what fueled those fires, but for now, you bask in the glow, marveling at Rome's ancient tech that still got you sweating. You're lingering in the tepidarium now, where the warmth from the hippocaust hugs your feet like a favorite pair of socks. The air's softer here, less intense than the caldarium's steam bath, but the real action's happening out of sight. You glance toward a corner where a faint glow flickers through a grate. Yep, that's the furnace room, the unsung hero keeping this bathhouse toasty. Ever wonder what fueled those roaring fires that made Roman baths feel like a tropical getaway? Spoiler, it's not just a pile of sticks, though there's plenty of those. The furnaces burned wood, tons of it. Historical records, like those from the Vindolanda tablets, show Romans hauling cartloads of timber to keep bathhouses running. Oak, pine, whatever was local, got tossed into the flames. You picture a forest vanishing to keep your bath warm and wince. Some bigger baths, like the baths of Diocletian, might have burned through a small grove daily. You step closer to the grate, feeling the heat pulse. The logistics are wild. Workers, probably slaves, fed these furnaces round the clock, shoving logs into the fire like they're stoking a dragon. Your modern furnace guys got nothing on them. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some baths experimented with olive pits or charcoal for extra heat. Olive pits. Imagine the smell. Part campfire, part Mediterranean kitchen. Historians still argue whether this was common or just a regional quirk in olive-rich provinces. Either way, you're glad your bathwater doesn't come with a side of smoky fruit. You pause, watching a slave hurry past with an armful of wood, his face smudged with soot. It's a stark reminder. Rome's luxury leaned hard on labor. Those furnaces didn't feed themselves, and the guys working them, they didn't get to lounge in the pools. The setup was intense. Furnaces were built outside the main rooms, often tucked under the caldarium, with flues channeling heat to the hypocost's underfloor maze. You imagine the roar of the flames, the crackle of wood, the sheer effort to keep the temperature steady. Too little fuel, and the bathers complain. Too much, and you're cooking the floor. A nearby mosaic of a fish seems to wink at you, and you grin. Did the artist know how much sweat went into this place? You're half tempted to whisper thanks to the furnace guy, but he's long gone. As you ease toward the frigidarium, the cold room, you notice the floor's warmth fading, but the memory of the furnace's glow sticks with you. The wood, the labor, the sheer volume of fuel. It's a machine that never slept. You pass a guy bragging about his new villa's bath, and you roll your eyes. Bet he never thinks about the poor souls hauling his firewood. Speaking of, you're curious how they engineered this whole system to work so smoothly. For now, you let the bathhouse's hum wrap around you. Grateful for the warmth, but glad you're not the one keeping the fires lit. You're gliding through the bathhouse now, the tepidarium's gentle warmth still kissing your soles as you head toward the caldarium again, drawn by the hypocost's magic. That underfloor heating system you felt earlier, it's not just a clever trick. It's an engineering masterpiece that makes you want to high-five a Roman architect. You pause, imagining the brains behind this setup. Someone scribbling plans on papyrus while sipping wine. How did they turn a pile of bricks and fire into a system that kept entire bathhouses toasty for centuries? Let's peel back the marble and find out. The hypocaust design is deceptively simple. Picture those brick pillars, the pilae you glimpsed in your mind earlier, each about 2 feet tall, stacked like a forest of mini columns under the floor. Historical texts, like Vitruvius's writings, describe how these created a hollow space for hot air to flow from the furnace. The floor above, often layered with concrete and tiles, soaked up the heat like a sponge. You kneel, tapping the marble, and feel its warmth. The walls, too, have those clay tubuli pipes, letting hot air climb like invisible vines, heating the room from all sides. It's like the Romans invented surround sound, but for heat. Here's a quirky fact. Some hypocausts had decorative pili, carved like tiny statues. Imagine a slave crawling under the floor, dodging sculpted dolphins just to clean soot. You chuckle. Only Romans would bling out their heating system. Historians still argue whether these flourishes were purely aesthetic or helped with heat distribution. Either way, you're impressed. You stand, noticing the precision of the floor's tiles, each laid to ensure no heat escaped. The engineering wasn't just functional, it was obsessive. Vents in the walls, called dampers, let workers tweak airflow, keeping the caldarium hot, but not a sauna from Hades. The real genius? Scalability. Small villas had hypocausts, but massive public baths like Caracalla's used the same tech to heat spaces the size of a modern mall. You picture engineers calculating furnace sizes, flue angles, and wood supplies, probably arguing over who forgot to measure the room. A nearby bather slips on a wet tile, and you stifle a laugh. Guess even Roman tech couldn't fix clumsiness. The system wasn't perfect, though. Soot buildup was a nightmare, and a poorly designed hypocaust could choke a room with smoke. You sniff the air, catching a faint charred scent, and wonder how often they clean those flues. As you move toward the next room, the hypocaust's warmth lingers, a testament to Roman ingenuity. You pass a mosaic of a chariot race, its colors vibrant despite the steam, and it hits you. This place is as much about brains as beauty. The guys who built this weren't just stacking bricks, they were crafting comfort. You're itching to know how this bathhouse doubled as Rome's social hotspot. But for now, you let the heat sink in, marveling at a system that's basically a 2,000-year-old hug from engineering history. You're back in the tepidarium, the warm middle ground of the bathhouse, where the hypocaust's gentle heat keeps the floor cozy and the air hums with chatter. This isn't just a place to scrub off dirt. It's Rome's social heartbeat, a steamy melting pot where everyone from senators to street vendors rubs elbows. You lean against a warm wall, watching the crowd. The baths are like a modern nightclub, minus the overpriced drinks, where deals are struck, gossip spreads, and you're half expecting someone to start a podcast. Let's dive into the social scene that made these bathhouses the place to be. The thermae were Rome's ultimate equalizer. Historical records, like inscriptions from the baths of Trajan, show entry was cheap or free, so everyone could soak. Rich, poor, even the occasional freeloader. You spot a merchant haggling with a toga-clad bigwig, their voices bouncing off the marble. Bathing was a ritual, sure, but it was also networking central. Senators plotted laws, poets recited verses, and you're pretty sure that guy in the corner's selling knockoff strigils. The air's thick with olive oil and ambition, and you're soaking it all in, figuratively and literally. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some Romans brought their own bath kits, including scented oils in fancy glass vials. Think of it as the ancient equivalent of flexing a designer gym bag. Historians still argue whether this was about status or just practical. Did they distrust communal oils, or were they showing off? You smirk, imagining someone dropping their vial and cursing in Latin. You weave through the crowd, dodging a kid splashing in the warm pool. The baths were family-friendly, too, with women and men often sharing spaces, though some had separate hours. Modesty, not really a Roman thing. The social vibe wasn't all rosy. Pickpockets worked the crowds, and you clutch your imaginary coin pouch, remembering that crocodile dung ointment rumor from earlier. Hope nobody's selling that here. The baths also hosted less savory deals. Shady loans, political bribes, you name it. A guy nearby boasts about his new villa, and you roll your eyes. Bet he's exaggerating, but in this steamy echo chamber, everyone's a storyteller. The hypocast's warmth fuels the mood, keeping everyone relaxed enough to overshare. You notice a mosaic of a peacock, its tail shimmering in the torchlight, and grin, fitting for a place where egos strut as you head toward the frigidarium. The social buzz lingers. The baths were Rome's Facebook, town hall, and spa rolled into one, all powered by that genius heating system. You pass a woman laughing at her friend's bad strigil technique, and you chuckle. Some things never change. You're curious about the grunt work keeping this place running, but for now, you bask in the chatter, feeling the pulse of a city that lived for its baths. You're easing out of the tepidarium's social buzz, the hypocast's warmth still tickling your feet as you wander toward a quieter corner of the bathhouse. The steam thins, but the air's alive with the clink of tools and muffled grunts from somewhere unseen. You're starting to wonder about the invisible army keeping this place so perfectly toasty. The hypocast, furnaces, all that marble, it didn't run itself. Who were the people sweating behind the scenes to maintain Rome's bathhouse magic? Time to peek behind the curtain. Maintaining a bathhouse was grueling. Historical records, like those from Pompeii's baths, showed teams of slaves and low-paid workers toiling to keep the system humming. You picture them crawling under floors, scrubbing soot from the hypocast's pili, their faces black with ash. The furnaces needed constant feeding, wood hauled, fires stoked, flues cleared. A single clog could choke the heat or fill the caldarium with smoke. You wince, imagining the coughs. These workers, often unnamed in history, were the bathhouse's heartbeat, ensuring your toes stayed cozy while senators debated politics. Here's a quirky fact. Some workers used vinegar to clean mineral buildup from pipes, like a Roman version of a DIY hack. Smelled like a salad gone wrong, probably. Historians still argue whether maintenance was a full-time gig or seasonal. Did they hire extra hands in winter? You sidestep a puddle, noticing a slave hauling a basket of wood toward the furnace room. His shoulders slump, and you feel a pang. The baths were a luxury for bathers, but for workers, it was endless labor. They also repaired tiles, patched walls, and unclogged drains, all while dodging complaints from fussy patrons. The workload was relentless. Furnaces burned day and night, and a lazy stoker could mean a cold bath and an angry mob. You smirk, picturing a Roman Karen demanding to speak to the bathhouse manager. The hypocast's design helped, Those sturdy pili lasted years, but soot and wear demanded constant attention. You glance at a mosaic of a lion, its roar frozen in tiles, and think of the workers' quiet grit. They weren't just maintaining a building, they were upholding Rome's obsession with baths. A bather nearby grumbles about a lukewarm pool, and you roll your eyes, bet he's never seen the furnace room. As you move toward the frigidarium, the workers' efforts linger in your mind. The bathhouse gleams, but it's built on their sweat. You're curious now about the water that filled these pools. Where did it come from, and how did it tie into the heat? For now, you pause, grateful for the warmth underfoot, knowing it came at a cost you'll never fully grasp. You're slipping into the frigidarium now, where the air bites and the hypocost's warmth fades, leaving the floor cool under your feet. The chilly pool glimmers, but your mind's on the steaming caldarium you left behind. Those hot baths needed more than just the hypocost's fire. They needed water, endless gallons of it, heated and flowing like Rome's life blood. You glance at a wall channel where water trickles, and it hits you. The baths were as much about plumbing as heat. How did the Romans keep this liquid symphony running? Let's follow the flow. Rome's aqueducts were the empire's arteries, channeling water from distant springs to cities. Historical records, like Frontinus's treatises, boast that aqueducts like the Aqua Marcia supplied millions of gallons daily to baths, fountains, and homes. You imagine the water's journey, snaking through stone channels across hills, arriving at the baths of Caracalla. Here it split. Some went to cold pools, some to boilers near the furnaces, where it was heated for the caldarium. You picture bronze tanks simmering, steam rising like a dragon's breath. The hot water then flowed through lead pipes to pools, keeping bathers happy. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some baths had fish in their drainage channels to eat debris. Tiny janitors nibbling away at Roman gunk. Historians still argue whether this was hygienic or just practical. Did the fish really help, or were they a weird flex? You smirk, imagining a carp judging your bathwater. The system was genius, but fragile. Leaky pipes or clogged aqueducts could halt the flow, and workers scrambled to fix them. You notice a slave adjusting a valve, his hands slick with grime. The aqueducts fed the baths, but human hands kept them alive. The heat and water danced together. Furnaces warmed the hypocaust and boilers, ensuring the caldarium's pools were steamy. You recall that olive pit fuel rumor from earlier. Maybe it heated this water too. The pipes, often lead, were a marvel but a gamble. You wince, knowing lead poisoning was a silent Roman hazard. A nearby bather splashes in the frigidarium, and you chuckle. Bet he's clueless about the engineering making his dip possible. The aqueduct's water, the furnace's heat, the workers' toil. It's a delicate balance, and you're in awe as you linger. The frigidarium's chill sharpens your senses. The bathhouse's water and heat flow like a living machine, and you're itching to see how its beauty tied into this function. For now, you watch the water ripple, marveling at a system that turned springs into Rome's steamy heart. You're back in the caldarium, the steamy heart of the bathhouse, where the hypocaust's heat wraps you like a warm towel, and the pool's surface shimmers with torchlight. The engineering, hypocaust, furnaces, aqueducts is mind-blowing, but now your eyes wander to the walls, gleaming with mosaics and polished marble. This place isn't just a feat of function. It's a palace of opulence that somehow doesn't sacrifice efficiency. How did the Romans make their baths so lavish yet practical? You step closer to a glittering wall, ready to unravel the balance of luxury and brains. The bathhouses were designed to dazzle. Historical records, like descriptions of the baths of Diocletian, detail walls clad in imported marble, green from Greece, red from Egypt, polished to a mirror shine. You run your fingers over a smooth column, cool despite the room's heat, and spot mosaics of nymphs dancing across the floor. These weren't just pretty, they were waterproof, their tiny tiles sealing surfaces against steam and spills. The Romans knew how to flex. Every surface screamed wealth, but also worked with the hypocaust's heat, reflecting warmth to keep the room toasty. Here's a quirky fact. Some baths had gilded ceilings that reflected torchlight, making the room glow like a sunset. Imagine the maintenance headaches, polishing gold while dodging steam. Historians still argue whether these touches were purely for show or subtly aided heat retention. You grin, picturing a worker muttering about fancy nonsense while scrubbing. The decor wasn't random, though. Marble and tiles resisted moisture, and wide windows let in light while venting excess heat, balancing the furnace's output. You notice a high-arched ceiling designed to trap warm air. Beauty and physics in harmony. The luxury had a practical edge. Those sturdy marble slabs held heat from the hypocaust, radiating it slowly so the room stayed warm without constant furnace blasts. You smirk, thinking of your own home's drafty windows. Rome had you beat. The opulence wasn't perfect, though. Marble was slippery when wet, and you dodge a near fall, chuckling at a bather who wasn't so lucky. The decor also hid wear. Cracks in the hypocaust's flues or soot stains blended into intricate patterns. You recall that crocodile dung skin care fad from earlier. Maybe the rich hid their weird habits behind these grand walls, too. As you ease toward the tepidarium, the bathhouse's splendor lingers. It's a space where art meets engineering. where every tile serves a purpose. You're curious now about the health claims tied to these baths. Were they really as clean as Romans bragged? For now, you pause, soaking in the glow of a place that's as clever as it is stunning. You're drifting back to the tepidarium. The bathhouse is warm, cozy middle ground, where the hypocaust's gentle heat soothes your feet and the air hums with soft chatter. The marble gleams, the mosaics sparkle, and you're still basking in the glow of Rome's opulent engineering. But a question nags. Were these baths really the health havens Romans claimed? Everyone scraping away with strigils, looking squeaky clean, but there's a whiff of something. Maybe just olive oil, maybe not. Time to dig into the myths and murky truths about the bath's hygiene. Romans swore by their baths for health. Historical texts, like those from Celsus, praise bathing for boosting circulation and easing aches. Hot water in the caldarium, cold dips in the frigidarium, like an ancient spa day. You watch a bather emerge from the hot pool, red-cheeked and grinning, probably feeling invincible. The routine made sense. Sweat out toxins, scrape off grime, maybe dodge a cold. But here's the catch. Thousands use these pools daily, and water wasn't always fresh. You squint at the tepidarium's pool, wondering how many feet have been in there. Hygiene wasn't quite what Romans thought. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some bathers believed soaking in shared water, shared strength, like a communal health potion. Sounds like a recipe for pink eye to you. Historians still argue whether baths spread more diseases than they cured. Were they wellness hubs or germ soup? You sidestep a puddle, suddenly suspicious. The aqueducts kept water flowing, but drainage lagged, and pools could turn stagnant. Add in strigils scraping off dead skin, and that crocodile dung ointment you heard about earlier, and you're not exactly signing up for a dip. Lead pipes didn't help. Unseen poison in the water. The health myths had upsides. Regular bathing likely cut skin infections compared to unwashed barbarians, and the social vibe, pure stress relief. You smirk, watching a guy flex for his friends. Mental health boost, check. But the downsides lurk. Parasites thrived in warm water, and open wounds in shared pools. Yikes. A slave cleans a drain nearby, and you nod. Unsung heroes fighting the funk. Romans didn't know germs, so they leaned on ritual over science. You chuckle, imagining a senator preaching hot baths cure-all while scratching a mystery rash. As you head toward the frigidarium, the health question lingers. The baths were a hygiene triumph and a risky gamble, a mix of genius and blind spots. You're curious now about their lasting impact. How did Rome's bath obsession shape the world? For now, you pause, glad your modern shower's a solo act. You're lingering in the frigidarium, the bathhouse's chilly finale, where the cool air prickles your skin and the hypocauste's warmth is just a memory. The mosaic floor, with its darting fish, seems to shiver under your feet. You've traced the heat, the water, the labor, the luxury, and the health myths of Rome's baths. But now it's time to step back. What did this obsession with steamy, toasty bathhouses leave behind? You wrap your imaginary towel tighter, ready to explore the lasting legacy of Rome's greatest leisure machine. The baths weren't just buildings. They were Rome's cultural blueprint. Historical records, like inscriptions from Constantinople, show bathhouses spreading across the empire, from foggy Britain to sun-scorched Syria, shaping daily life for centuries. They were so iconic that early Christians built baptistries, mimicking their design. Talk about a holy glow-up. You picture medieval towns, their public baths inspired by Roman thermae, keeping the tradition alive. Even today, Turkish hammams and modern spas owe a nod to the caldarium's steam. The baths taught the world that communal soaking wasn't just practical, it was civilization. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some Roman bath ruins, like those in Bath, England, were thought to be temples by later locals, their grandeur too wild for just a bath. Historians still argue whether the bath's decline after Rome's fall was due to economics or shifting morals. Did people ditch them for coin or piety? You smirk, imagining a monk side-eyeing a hippocauste. The engineering, especially the hypocauste, left its mark too. Renaissance architects studied Roman ruins, and you can trace underfloor heating from Rome to modern cozy cabins. That crocodile dung skincare fad didn't survive, thankfully, but the idea of baths as social hubs, still thriving in every coffee shop and gym. The legacy's not all rosy. The bath's reliance on slave labor and deforestation cast a shadow. You recall the furnace workers' sweat, the felled forests, and wince. Rome's comfort had a cost, yet their ambition inspires. The baths of Caracalla, still standing, draw tourists who gawk at the same marbles you admired. You chuckle, picturing a modern influencer snapping selfies where senators once gossiped. The baths proved humans could blend beauty, tech, and community, even if they slipped on hygiene. Their echo lingers in every warm shower you take, every public square you visit. As you step out of the frigidarium, the bathhouse fades, its steam curling into the night like a sigh. The mosaics blur, the chatter softens, and you're left with the gentle hum of Rome's legacy, warm as a hypocauste's glow. Picture yourself under a starry sky, the city's columns silver in the moonlight, whispering of a time when baths were the heart of life. You're safe, cozy, wrapped in the story of a people who turned heat and water into art. Let the day's weight slip away, like water down a Roman drain. Close your eyes, breathe slow, and drift. Rome's warmth carries you to sleep.